Hey guys, welcome back to Sad Dad. My name's Dave Abcary and I am a comedian out of Fresno, California, and this is a podcast where I sit down with my fellow funny friends, my fellow comedians, and we talk about dads. Hi, how are you? How's your week been? Oh my goodness, I have so much to do this morning, one of which is editing today's episode together for you guys, but getting ready to leave for the Savage Henry's Comedy Festival up in Eureka, so I'm doing all my last minute stuff. Plus, I still have a show tonight here in Fresno to run. So just running around like a crazy man. I got to go pick up Abby this afternoon after school. I got to change the oil in my truck. It's just been, and I got to do laundry. Oh my goodness, so much to do today. But I'm here. I'm present. I'm now. Cool. But yeah, I had a lot of fun this week. A lot of fun hangs. I actually have kind of a crazy episode for you today. I'm going to make this intro kind of short because the episode itself is actually very long, in a good way. I have like a Sad Dad XL, right? Sad Dad, big and tall store edition, I guess. I actually have two guests today. I have Lindsay Adams and Renee Gauthier on the show today, and they are so fun. They actually have a podcast themselves, a dad-based podcast called the Dads Club. We talk about what that podcast is all about, and it's super fun. I've been doing the Sober October thing. That's been going pretty well so far. I've been dieting too. I've been doing the keto thing. That's been going all right. Just cutting out carbs and sugar. I don't know. I had a dizzy spell. I had a dizzy spell a couple weeks ago. I mentioned it to my mom, and my mom's like, "Hey, I went over there the day before yesterday over to my folks' house to visit, and my mom was thinking about that. That was a few weeks back, and she was like, well, we got a lot of diabetes in the family, so maybe have your dad test your blood, test your blood." The blood sacrifice to the blood meter. And I was like, all right. So pricked my finger, and it turns out not diabetic, but might be a little hypoglycemic, which is a little tricky on keto because hypoglycemia is where you need more sugar. Your blood sugar is kind of low, and I'm not sure if I can do keto while being hypoglycemic. I gotta research that a little bit. I don't know. I haven't had any more dizzy spells since, so I'm hopefully that was just a one-off. Maybe I was just dehydrated. I think that's what it was. I just drank a bunch of water. Anyway, I digress. So let's focus on today's show. So not my weird medical ailments. So, guys, without further ado, let's jump in and do the damn thing. This is a super fun episode. These gals were headlining and featuring on for our weekend shows. They're all the way up from Los Angeles, originally from Chicago, and they came over, sat down with me for I think this episode's like an hour and a half long. It's super fun. And I was nervous about doing two guests. I've never really done that before, but they're such pros, and they had podcasts themselves, so they know how to keep the conversation going. So here we go. Without further ado, Lindsay Adams and Renee Gauthier. I thought you said pads too.
Sorry. Cats?
The answer is yes. I have a lot of comedians that stay with me, so I try to keep a little something for everybody. They're not my pads. They're for anybody else that might need
No,
them.
pets.
I don't. Yeah. To answer your actual question.
Pets. Got it.
Yeah. No, I don't. I had a dog. I had a big pit bull for a long time, and I loved him. He was great. And then, like, one of the shitty things about living out here is like animals tend to like. There's just all the cars and the coyotes and hawks and stuff.
So he died. We got it.
Yeah.
Your pet was murdered?
Well, by a car, yeah. I was out walking him, and he got away from me, and then he had
sorry.
Yeah, it was pretty hard. I still haven't like gotten to the point where like I'm like just now. I was like a year and a half ago, and I'm like
that's recent.
and it's like I'm just now getting to the point where I'm like I could probably go for another one.
Yeah,
a little dog.
Oh.
Yeah.
But
It's a sad beginning to this show.
Oh yeah, sorry.
What? How was the show last night?
Perfect.
I take Fridays off. Sorry, I wasn't.
No, you're
great.
fine. It was great. It was so fun.
Yeah.
Super fun.
Oh,
yeah.
cool. Right on.
It was pretty. I mean, Danny was acting like it wasn't pretty full, but I felt like it was pretty good.
Was it? Yeah.
I thought it was.
I thought it was too. I had fun. They were cool. It was great. I had a good time.
Yeah, that's what I like about that room is like you can. I mean, it doesn't take a lot for it to look full. So you get 20 people in there, and it's like, oh, that's a nice size show.
Yeah.
Totally.
You've done Fresno before. Like I know you came up for the first time, Lindsay, with Paige, right?
Yeah.
Was that the first time you had done Fresno?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, for sure.
You're funny because like I feel like you're like a secret Fresno. Like you like live your best life every time you come up.
Yeah, I mean I look forward to it like a vacation.
Yeah.
In like a really stupid way.
Yeah.
I get so excited about like road trips and stuff. I think I'm like an ideal road comic just because like I'm so stoked to like find the culture in like a place with no culture. Not that Fresno is a place with no culture, but like
I mean, we got
You're looking
some.
for the Fresno culture.
Yeah, I mean, there's
true.
some weird little things. I mean, Fresno's got some weird history to it too. Like if you're ever feeling really adventurous, you can take you go down to Chinatown and you can take a tour of the underground tunnels under Chinatown.
I've looked it up.
Oh yeah, it's wild. Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
And then Renee, you've been to Fresno before, but it's been a while, right?
Been a while,
like,
yeah.
You came up with Lindsay last time she came
I
up,
did,
but you've been doing Fresno for a hot minute.
I mean, yes, I was fortunate enough to headline a couple shows. Chris Cruz, I believe. Is the
he's
dude
a buddy.
Such a nice guy. Really, but that was like 4 or 5. I mean, it was a long time ago. Like, I can mark that back to an old boyfriend. You know what I mean? So it was a minute ago.
Well, we know how Lindsay feels about Fresno. How do you?
Yeah.
you feel?
I love Fresno. I think Lindsay and I are pretty similar. As you can see, we're both wearing similar outfits as we
you
did
are
last
twinsies.
night. We got dressed last night, and it was like, okay. We both don't care. I meant speak for both of us.
I love it. I love when that happens. I'll never change.
Yeah.
So
What? And how did you
like
guys?
twins?
How did you guys become friends?
comedian Mike Stanley.
Michael
Okay.
Stanley.
Yeah.
That's all the credit.
When I moved to LA, Mike, who lives in Denver now, a very funny comedian who I and Renee knew from Chicago, he was like, you guys have to meet. You'll love each other. And then...
And I don't trust Mike Stanley, so I was like, no, thank you.
What was he?
Take your friends somewhere else, is what I said.
Well, like, did he ever explain why? Was he like, Lindsay, you'd love Renee because blah, and Renee, you love Lindsay because blah? Was there?
No.
Was this a weird and?
I think here's the thing is that I had been living in LA for a while. I was one of the first Chicago comics in the class that Stanley and I came up together in Chicago to move to Los Angeles. And we always had been friends and, you know, whatever. And I think Mike Stanley knew that I was a nice person.
Sure.
I think that might have been the first part of it. And then Lindsay started comedy in Chicago, but I never met Lindsay because we were in two different separate, groups of people. So when she got here, I think he was like, well, Lindsay's cool as fuck. And Renee, I'm just assuming he thinks I'm cool as fuck.
Yeah. No,
was
that's
like,
accurate.
Renee will be nice to Lindsay. I think what in his head was the original thing.
Yeah.
Because they were such good friends. And then Lindsay and I were both like, oh, yeah, yes, tarot card reading. Yes to spirits, and both of our dads are dead.
Way to
We're
go.
in this. Yeah.
That's so funny. Way to go, Stanley. Weird moment of
he did a good
intuition
job.
on his part. Yeah,
I know. He's pretty good at it. He's got a knack for
Yeah,
that.
yeah. What's doing comedy in Chicago like?
Amazing.
Fun.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I haven't been back in like a second since I moved out to LA, but I mean, I didn't know how good it was to come up there, obviously, because I had nothing to compare it to. But
Sure.
it's like, it's so fun.
Is it?
It's so fun.
Yeah, I think it's a scene. It's like a mini New York in a lot of ways. I think a lot of people compare it to that. But for me, a lot of Chicago comics, there's a distinct separation. I don't know if this is even correct anymore, but there's an improv scene that's very strong there.
Yeah.
And there's a stand-up scene that's very strong there. And I think that's now very parallel to the LA scene. And I think but in Chicago, there's not as many people just doing comedy because they want to be seen.
Yeah.
It's people doing comedy because they live comedy.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if you suck faster.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is beautiful.
Yeah. And hopefully, you need to get better faster too. I mean, I would hope that would be what that leads to.
Well, people take it seriously. And that was like something that kind of irritated me because like they're, obviously just I don't like being not good at stuff, and you just have to suck. You just have to suck for several years, or sometimes people don't, and it's like, God bless them, hope they die, but I mean, people take it really seriously.
Yeah.
The comics that have been doing it for a while there are really good.
I mean, we've had, compared to other major cities in the United States, we've had a disproportionate number of Chicago comedians headline our shows because you guys are all super cool. I think there's like a weird, it's funny, but there's also like a weird, Midwestern value that's baked into the comedy scene out there.
Yes.
And because you guys are all like super cool. Like I've never met like a comedian from Chicago, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm sure you guys have because you're from there, but it seems like everyone that makes it out west is cool. So
yeah, I mean, there are less that are annoying than if you were to pick people just stably in LA. Started in LA. I think.
Yeah, and I think people,
hang on one second.
Oh, sure.
Oh, there's that a pizza? Oh. What if it was a pizza?
There you go.
Is that mail?
Mail from my ex-girlfriend.
Oh my God! Open
burn
it
it.
immediately.
Burn it.
Mail for her or from her?
For her.
Oh.
Yeah.
Got it.
Is it Victoria's Secret coupons or anything that we can
No,
use?
it's some weird vape thing I think she signed up for like 9 years ago or something. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's not a good idea now. So.
No. I'm still
pills.
doing the dumb thing.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I think those are fine. I don't fucking know. I really don't.
It's they were saying it's like the black market THC cartridges.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I don't know. I was like sucking on a jewel like a pacifier, and then I stopped because I can't afford it. That was truly the sole reason.
Dude, it's expensive. Have we talked about this before? I think we have had the jewel conversation before.
It's not like there's on no planet is it like a cheaper alternative. No one should ever, if you're like a true nicotine addict, it's not cheaper. It's not cheaper in the slightest.
Yeah.
It's also worse because I would wake up with it in my mouth, and I would have to if I didn't want to do that, I would have to literally put it in another room. Otherwise, and then I would rush to if I left it in my car, I just remember rushing to my car.
That weird panic too that it's not on your person. You're
God, it's so fucked up.
You quit smoking. I know you don't drink, but you also quit smoking
years ago.
Good for you.
Yeah, I mean, I still have a cigarette every now and then, but my body really doesn't like it, and it's only and every time I do, I'm always like, yeah, that sucked.
Yeah.
But it's it's like one of those things where I'm just like, this is truly all I have. So I'm gonna keep doing stupid things.
Yeah, it's still I joke and say cigarettes because I've been doing the vape thing, and I still say to myself cigarettes are one of the great loves of my life. I feel I still think about them.
Yeah.
I wonder what they're doing.
Are they different now? Have they evolved? Have they gained weight? The thing is, I actually have a full lung and respiratory capacity of a smoker. I have smoked in my life, and I've never smoked in my life.
Oh, that's weird.
So it's so funny to hear people smoke and not ever be like, I have recurring bronchitis. And I'm the full even this morning I had to cough my way awake.
Oh my goodness.
So
it's not all the time.
Is it like a diagnosed thing? Do you have an actual disorder? Or is
no. I have upper respiratory issues just because I grew up with recurrent bronchitis. but it's just funny because I have a raspy voice, and I have things that you'd be like, you smoke?
Yeah.
You're never. Yeah. I like to embody what other people do. I take on everyone else's stuff.
That's the worst is the weird offhand comments from people. They probably don't think, you smoke. Why would you think that?
It's
what is it about
if you're
me?
Pregnant.
Yeah. That's
no.
No. Yeah, that's
no, I'm pure, actually. I'm actually pure, so.
I don't even know how to take that.
Nobody's passed through this vagina yet.
Did you guys grow up in Chicago, or did you?
I did.
Yeah.
Lindsay grew up in New
Yeah, I
Jersey.
grew up in New Jersey.
Oh,
So I didn't.
I knew that.
Yeah, I moved to Chicago for college and then I stayed for like 8 years. So I lived there for like a hefty period of time. I think like had so much fun. I mean, like I think about it now and like I can't figure out if I miss Chicago because of Chicago or if I just like miss being in my early 20s.
What's growing up in Chicago like, Renee?
It's awesome. I don't even know. Like it's what I do know is like now as I look back, I can realize that I've always had the luxury of not needing to like always be in the scene because I would go do stand up and then go home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like versus living in it.
Right.
And so I always had a way to go be normal.
Sure.
Right? So, but it's just like it's great. Chicago's great. The food is great. Mm-hmm. Everyone talks about the weather and shit, but I'll be honest, like the minute it starts to snow, I like when it snows and you have to stay inside.
Oh.
Like I think there's something that we miss in
interesting.
California about that. Like I know there's parts of California that can snow, but I'm just like, you know what I mean? Like there's moments where you're like, snow is falling. This is the perfect time and perfect excuse to not go outside.
Sure.
And to just like, it's really pretty. I mean, it sucks in the long run because you have to shovel or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
You never had a shovel, right?
No, I mean, I miss the fall, I think, more than anything. Like this time of year, I just like, I crave the fall in Chicago was just, it was cool too because it's like I never had a car. So I always took public transportation or I rode my bike. So it was just like such a more like close experience to that.
Yeah.
I will say like I love the same thing about the winter, but at the same time, like I had to go out. I just like my worst nightmare. I remember standing for like waiting for the bus and being like, is it fucked up if I ask someone to get in their car?
Right.
Like truly just being like at this point and like trying to go into stores and like the store owners are like, can you just stop? And I'm like, I'm hiding from the wind.
Yeah. The weather is brutal. But again, I never did public trans because I had a car.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so my experience living and coming up and stand up and stuff in Chicago is always going to be a little different because it's home.
Right.
You know what I mean? So again, I had a place to like, I could make an excuse to not come. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think if you're a transplant, and with LA, I think it's the same. It's like you almost, as a comic, beat yourself up if you don't go out.
Yeah, I feel like the traffic is the weather in LA.
Yeah, or rain.
Or rain, yeah.
My God, when it rains,
Yeah.
it makes me laugh. Like I wanted to snow for 1 week and watch everyone from Michigan and Chicago and like come out and be like, hey, we still have our scrapers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we can help you. You guys are all pussies. We
Yeah.
can help you.
Yeah.
I'm such a dumb Californian because I was born and raised here. Anytime I hear somebody's from somewhere like east of the Mississippi, I'm like, does it snow there? Like, I'm
No, I mean, I have like the same thing with people from California though. Are you from Fresno or where are you
I
from?
grew
You're
up
from
here.
the same area?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like am all, I mean, I get more excited. I get excited about like places like Orange County. Any of my friends from Orange County have had to endure like or LA, like or San Francisco, like whatever, like a very long conversation about all the dumb questions of just like, so it's like weird. Did you guys like go to the beach like at lunch? Like everything from TV I pull and I'm just like, so like,
do you surf? Do you rollerblade?
yeah,
Do you-
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Do you weightlift by the beach?
100%, like
You
everything.
all have Range Rovers when you turn 16.
Yeah, exactly. Like all those things, and it's like, well, what did you like? Did you feel like you missed out on Christmas? Like I have all, so I totally get it.
But
Yeah.
that's what a lot of people ask you, probably because you're Jewish.
I mean, sometimes, yeah, exactly.
Did you miss out on Christmas?
Do I miss out? No, we buy into commercialism. Thank you
like
so
that.
much.
What was the? I guess we'll start with Renee with this question. Well, what was the spark for you? You're like, I'm gonna do stand up comedy. Like here we go. What was the thing?
I don't know. I do know what got me into stand-up, but I think comedy in general is always a thing in my life. Like it was something I did with my dad a lot. Like just as a little kid, we watched SNL and like whatever.
Yeah.
So I always knew I wanted to be funny at some capacity. Mostly I wanted to be a dancer. Which was not in the cards. But so I started stand-up. I started improv when I went through a breakup with a guy who was also an improviser. And it was a pretty bad breakup. My friend Nick Vatterat took me to a open mic. And from that point on, I did an open mic like twice. I was awful. I abandoned it, and then 6 months later came back and was like, meh, and then just started doing it. So it was a breakup.
Gotcha. Yeah.
To answer your question.
And so you weren't. I mean, you obviously had kind of like a failure to launch the first time around, but were you second time you were just hooked? You had.
Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, that's it. Yeah, you were like, let's go.
I don't know. I don't know what the click was. I don't know what happened. I'll be honest, I've wanted to be on SNL. I wanted to be an improviser, and I wanted to do sketch comedy and be on sitcoms. That was the focus. Just generally most of my life. And so I never thought I could be a stand-up comic. I didn't think it was anything I could do. And then I don't know if it were because my friends were intermixed in the improv and stand-up scene, and then I was like, oh, yeah, I was making this way more overwhelming.
Right.
And then realized it was a natural fit. So I don't know if there was ever a click moment. I'm not sure why I didn't go back. It felt daunting.
Yeah.
I thought I had to have everything written.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And God, the shit I wrote was so bad. So
bad. I mean, I can relate.
And the only thing that actually got even a remote laugh was me talking about my actual breakup.
Oh, funny.
And so I was like, oh, they want to hear real stuff.
Yeah,
they don't want to hear about the Purdue chicken guy that I have these jokes about this commercial. I was like,
God.
Thanks, but no thanks. Do you guys know the Purdue chicken guy out here?
I don't think so.
I don't know him personally.
But you know him. You know him, right?
Yeah.
It's like they have these commercials where he's almost seems like a chickophile. Like he's like fucking chickens.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But that's because he just cares for them so much. And that's why. And so I just
gaslighting
that
chickens.
sounds funny to
I've
me.
also never said chickophile until this moment.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, it might seem funny now, but that's because I know how to talk.
Yeah.
In joke form now. Before it was like, this Purdue chicken guy, huh? Him and Michael Jackson.
It's funny when you get a bit to work that didn't work, and it only works now because you're a better comedian.
100%.
Yeah. It's kind of exciting.
It is exciting.
Yeah, you're like, oh, that was what I was doing wrong the entire time. Like you
experience.
Totally. What about you, Lindsay?
I mean, similar to Renee, I don't think I ever thought that I could be a stand-up comedian. Like I loved stand-up, but it never clicked. Like, I mean, growing up, humor was like, I was always like the funny one, but it was for sure like a deflection of like, I was bullied a lot and I like had like a lot of like issues. So I was always just like cracking jokes and like saying wild shit and like, like get a reaction or whatever. And like, I just like truly a whore for attention in like I tried to just in the most embarrassing way. My mom was always like, when she was 2, somebody had a microphone at a parade and Lindsay just took it and I was like, okay, Mom. And you let me walk into a parade by myself. So who are you?
I was thinking about that last night. I was at my daughter had a softball game and I was just thinking about little kid shit. And that is sort of like when you're like the dorky kid or the fat kid or the whatever kid, the you are even at that, it's almost like a performance. Like eyes are always on you, because they're always looking for a thing, you know, and it's almost like you're performing, just not in a performance situation. You're always like very aware of yourself and your actions. And I don't know, I think that almost lends itself to like an intuitive idea that goes right into stand-up comedy, I mean, because you're almost used to performing your entire life.
You'd rather be vulnerable. Like I always joke that I was like a little Don Rickles. Like instead of being vulnerable, I'd rather make everybody laugh. Instead of having a feeling, I'd rather I'd 8 Mile myself in a lot of ways, right? Where you're just like, oh, whatever you're going to say to me, I'm about to say.
Yeah.
You think my teeth are crooked? They're crooked. I'm about to tell you why.
Yeah. I was more very much like it was a deflection and I couldn't like merge like being sensitive and like upset and sad and like, that was my way to win people over. Yeah. It was like truly like I was obsessed with like the whole like bullying thing made me be like, nobody likes me, nobody likes us. And it's like,
Same,
yeah, well, I'm gonna make you laugh. So good luck not being my friend, bitch.
Right, exactly.
That was like way more. But then I did musical theater all throughout like my childhood, which has ruined me. Let me be clear, that has ruined my chances of being on TV. Fully.
I did musical theater too.
I mean, like, unless I don't know. I mean, like, it truly. I sing my lines. I'm too big.
I'm too big.
I'm way too big.
I see.
I like
camera. Everything's overdone. They're like, you're not on a stage.
Yeah, everything is like your energy goes to the wrong place. Like you think of things in the wrong way. Like it's totally.
What does that even mean? I don't even think your
It
energy.
makes sense when you start to look into it.
Sure.
But it's like also it's like I wanted to be like a singer. I thought I was going to be like a pop star, and it's like my voice is only for musical theater.
Oh, funny.
Like it's not a bad voice, but the truth of it is that it sounds like when musical theater people go to karaoke. And you're like, this is fun, but like nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah,
like your
right.
vibrato is out of control and it is real weird. It's obnoxious, actually. It's scarring.
Yeah.
It's like an abrasive.
She actually has a good voice.
I mean, it's abrasive. You know what I mean? But it's like I can sing the fuck out of On My Own from Les Mis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I will, but it's like anything else. It's like nobody wants to hear like Britney Spears just like na, 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 na. Like so. But I fooled myself like all through. I mean, like I went to school for music business.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I went to Columbia College in Chicago. I went to school for music business. And I think like there was something inside of me that knew that was not the thing. Because I think if I really thought I was going to be a singer, I would have gone for vocal performance.
Oh, sure.
And, and then, by the time I graduated, I was like, I don't know. I'm not going to do it.
Did any of those business skills transfer over to like comedy, like what you're doing now? I mean, like with promotion and everything else.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, like I had a lot of fun with it. I think I could be really great in like if I wanted to do like advertising or something.
Sure.
I think I could like do great with it. I think that my love for stand up is so genuine that like often my vulnerability with it stops me from being able to like use these objective business skills that I think I was like able to do so well with in like a low stakes situation for myself.
Right.
Like I was like, yeah, this is like intuitive. This is what you do. You do this and this and this and this. And it's like, shut up, do it. Shut up, do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost hard. Like when you have that skill set, it's sometimes hard to apply them to yourself. Like you could look at somebody else and objectively be like, oh, you need to do this. You're not doing this. But then when it's you, you're like, oh, like, I don't know. I have that problem sometimes.
No, it's like, it's incredibly difficult. And I tried an open mic, when I was in college to impress this guy that I like really wanted to like me. And I was like, and it's like, yeah, and I was more scared than I've like ever been in my life. And I loved it. And like, it was like fun. And fucking Dave Odd gave me his card after. She knows who Dave Odd is. This I don't know how to explain him.
He ran a lot of small shows. Like he actually a bit of an innovator in the pun female show comedy scene. Like ha ha hotties.
Oh, funny.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm gonna give him total respect though, because he ran small shows, but he hustled his ass around, and everyone is always like, I think they try to like dog him a little bit because he was a bit, but the truth is he had good jokes. I mean, he just had poor fashion sense, and he had poor choices, and sometimes the way he spoke to people. And I think once I came at him kind of hard. He told everyone when I moved to LA, he was like, she'll be back in 3 months. And so I really held on to hating him because of that. And I remember once, like, I had outed this like thing that had happened to him, like he was arrested for something. And I said something so really mean on Facebook, and he like texted me personally and was like, what have I ever done to you that you would try to hurt me like that? And I was like, oh, I thought we were just coming at each other. You know what I mean? And then I realized like Dave Odd's like just a real person and not this piece of shit dude that I allowed all the guy comics to kind of perpetuate.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, but he's that dude, like hustles and wears flame button downs and
Yeah.
And I
does
think
his
he was
thing.
pitching a stand-up class. I think that's what it.
Yeah. The one thing is about certain people like Dave Odd, and obviously nobody knows who he is listening to this, or and also you don't. But I think he is the epitome of a guy who knows how to hustle, but maybe isn't super likable as a performer.
Yeah.
So while he has like a sense of like what would work, like to get your show off the ground, to, formulaically how a joke should work, he does know that stuff.
Right.
But there's like, because his performance isn't totally liked around the world, you don't trust him.
Yeah, I think what you had too was, I think that's an important realization you had, and it's a realization I've had too, and it's important because in what we do, there's a lot of times there's a lot of unlikable people that we just have to like get along with, and
I'm talking about comedy club owners.
Comedy club owners. I'm talking about bookers. I'm talking about other comedians. I mean, because sometimes I'll think about somebody I don't like. And then I'm like, why don't I like that? Like, what have they ever done to me? You know, and that's such a big part of what we do. Is you gotta be nice. You don't know who's gonna.
Yeah. Well, you have to interact with people. I forget that, like, because I have so many friends in comedy, I forget that I'm also interacting with these people to a certain degree because I have to. And it's like I've just gotten so lucky to have found all these people that I genuinely love. And then I'm like, why do I keep hanging around with this person that sucks? And it's like, because that's also your job.
Right.
It's like you don't like everybody at your job, and that's just what it is. You have to be a fucking adult about it.
Right. She's talking about me.
I am. I'm like, I can't even believe.
Yet she lounges in my Jeep Grand Cherokee.
I do. It's like, it's wild.
You lean back, and is that how you sit?
I lean full back. I drive with my foot up on the dashboard.
She absolutely does.
Yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I do. It's like
aggressive.
It's
you
a
drive
sickness.
with your foot on the
Oh,
Yeah,
she took her shoe off yesterday.
I don't know.
and just plopped it on the dashboard while you were driving?
Yeah, I love a wide-legged stance while driving.
She's standing wide right now. Her hands are on her hips to stand wide.
Yeah, you are doing like that Wonder Woman power.
It is a
right
musical
now.
theater. I'm gonna blame it on musical theater because I don't know.
You're
what
a better
else.
musical theater person than I am.
I love a wide-legged stance.
What? I guess I feel like I've derailed it a million times. So I think we were starting about how you got into comedy. You got the
Yeah,
card.
and I'm sorry. I'm being so
sorry.
No.
like long-winded about it. No,
It's okay.
basically,
No,
like I did well, so I didn't go back. I was just like
I did it.
yeah, I was like, okay, whatever. Like, it's not a thing. And then when like music started to kind of like fall out of the picture, I had a friend of a friend that knew Beth Stelling at the time and was like good friends with her.
cool.
And she was in Chicago.
She's great.
And they were like, yeah, like come out to this like teeny bar show. And it was cool. And I was like, oh, this is so interesting. And like, there was an open mic at the same bar. It was Town Hall Pub. And I was like, oh, I'm going to try it. And so I ended up trying it at like this place called Edge Comedy Club, which no longer exists. And
R.I.P.
Yeah, R.I.P. Edge.
It changed so many times. It was called so many things before it was called that.
Yeah, it was just like one of those performance spaces that like couldn't hack it. And I went up and I went with like a friend of mine and we both like got the courage to do it. Ate it so hard. I mean, it was like my boyfriend was there and I'm still with him. So he got to like see me start and he'll never let me forget my first show. Like he'll reference it constantly.
That's
and
so
like
funny.
it was like something, it was like about the genie from Aladdin. And it was something like do you ever, when you feel awkward, just like hum the tune of like do 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 do? It was like really upsetting to like even just do that just now because there's no way to say it that's funny. And
Was that the punchline?
it was I mean,
okay.
like I'm not known for my punchlines.
Well, okay.
But like
I'll ask more about that later.
but I just like kept going back. I was like, I think there's a part of me that loves eating shit in like something, and that like will propel me.
Yeah.
And it's like so unfortunate that it's such a negative thing that will propel me.
No, I love when once a guy comic made a commentary in Chicago. The girl comedians kind of all joined forces and started a thing called Spitfire, and
cool.
we did our own show and only let one male comic in each show because we were like, that's how we were being treated, and we kind of like whatever.
Oh, yeah.
We were gonna have this show and like we were kind of arguing about who should headline it.
Yeah.
And I was dating one of the comics at the time secretly because no one needed to know.
Yeah,
and
that's
he was like, he told me that this one comic who has actually become a really good friend of mine, his name's Nate Craig. He's great. You should have Nate. You would fucking love him.
Cool.
And he looks like an alpha. Everything you would think a frat boy should embody.
Looks like a Republican.
But he's so not. It's like he's so confusing. But he's getting married soon.
Oh, good
but
for him.
he said, what are they fighting about? Who's going to be the most mediocre? Made some comments, right?
Uh-oh.
And I was like, as soon as I heard he said that, and this is to what Lindsay's saying, of like she liked eating shit because it propelled her. The minute someone doubts me, the minute someone says she'll be back in 3 months, it was like, oh, just to say hi, motherfucker.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
I will blow past you the hardest you've ever been blown past. Like that is how I started to get.
Yeah.
So I started to just like compete with only men.
Right.
Like, because in the beginning,
Yeah.
I would compete with girls because we force ourselves to.
Yeah, right.
And then
right.
when I heard that, I was like, oh, really? We're all going to ruin you.
Yeah,
And
good
I'm
for
gonna
you.
be
Yeah,
ruined.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I like
and
that,
that's
yeah.
like what
Yeah.
feeds me, I think.
I live to prove people wrong.
Oh, it's so
I
good.
fucking live to prove people wrong.
Yeah.
Like there's few things that, and it's such a deep childhood traumatic thing, but I fucking live for it.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a piece of that. And it's like, here's the thing, in Chicago comedy, very different from LA comedy.
Sure.
When you start, everybody is so supportive.
Oh
Everybody.
my God, do you think that?
Yeah, for when I
Chicago.
came up, yeah, when I came up, everybody was like, "Yes, do it. Here's what you got to do to succeed. Like you got to go to mics
different
every."
experience.
Really?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, it was so like it was. I mean, it was like an immediate group of people that were just like, "Fuck yeah, like let's do this together," and like everybody bands together. And there was definitely like drama between the classes, quote unquote, like of like who's good, who's not, you know. But it's like there was definitely an immediate like, yeah, like here's what you got to do, and it's like, I mean, they're not going to book you, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Wow, that's so interesting because when I started, because I came from Second City, I had already known TJ Miller, Tony Sam, like certain people already that they were, Nick Vatterott and all those people were really nice to me. The girls were the ones that weren't nice to me. And now some of them are some of my best friends. But like in the beginning, it was more like okay.
Oh yeah, I'm talking
You know.
about men.
Yeah, thank you. You're talking about men,
I'm
right?
talking about men,
Okay,
yeah.
Well,
Because
I
I
mean-
was like, no woman came up to me and was like, here's a list of things to do to succeed in Chicago. And if that happened to you, I'd have been so like proud of the women you
Beth
were with.
Stelling
in that
was.
month. She's wonderful.
Yeah.
She was wonderful.
Yeah.
But she came after, like she.
Yeah.
Well,
You
that almost, I mean, that's got to be because of the whole, like the whole Spitfire thing you're talking
Yeah.
about. There was only one woman per show. So, of course, like you guys probably all in the back of your minds feel like you're competing for that one spot.
Yes,
Which, you know.
Yeah, and I think, and truthfully, I'm obviously exaggerating. I'm sure there
Sure.
were one or two like each show, but it was definitely the minority of the crew at the time.
Right.
And obviously, everything evolves and gets better, which is great.
Yeah.
But like but I'm glad you had that experience with people. I did not have it with men. I had it only with the women. That it was just more like a little bit of like someone was saying, guys wrote my jokes.
Oh, jeez.
I was just like, but so you're just discounting that I couldn't be funny because I'm a female? Like,
Yeah,
you're
right.
doing it. What you're doing is,
Yeah.
There was definitely more archaic. I mean, there was definitely like the normalized idea of just like dudes coming up and giving you tags and being like, you ever think about doing this, or like blah, 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 and like the weird predatory thing
Yeah,
that
it's-
like I almost feel like came from like a really, I kind of feel like it came from an innocent place. And I'm going to say that carefully because it's probably not for everybody, but like, I just like don't even think they realized that they were preying on young female comics.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than like getting off stage and having like the middle-aged white comic just grab you by the shoulder, like, come in there, I got something. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I don't really know. Like, yeah.
It's like they love giving advice, which is like now like that white men are being persecuted. I just want to be like, you guys, all you got to do is just be funny and it'll come. That's what you told me. Just be funny.
Just be funny.
That's the only thing you got to focus on. Don't worry about the bullshit.
Be undeniable. Yeah.
Yeah, be undeniable. And guess what? It'll come. Oh, sorry, you're already doing that? Oh, so it must be because people hate you.
right. It's so great. Just be funny. Be you.
Yeah, just be you. And if it's not happening, it's because you failed. You know?
And like I know you're kidding at a little bit of a level, and but it is kind of real. Like if these white male comedians would just stop trying so hard to be a persona of something they think they need to be on stage, there'd be less Me Too and Dicks Out. And like, it's just such a weird spiral into like, I think your brain spirals into you have to be this like thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a white man, thank God.
Yeah. I mean, and I mean, the funny thing too is like with a lot of the uproars about, very little of it is about what is being said on stage. I mean,
right.
You know, there's the Chappelle thing. Sure. He says that on a Netflix special, but I still have yet to hear of a comedian saying a thing on stage at a show and getting, you know, hashtag canceled because of that. You know what I mean? Like
100%. We were just talking about this yesterday.
Yeah.
Shane Gillis, is that his name?
Yeah.
The dude who got...
Right, the SNL thing.
We were just talking about like the most... It's funny because Lindsay and I are very similar. Also, as I'm hearing us both talk, and like we were both in musical theater and we both like hoops. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But we were both had the same point of view of like the Shane Gillis thing, for example, and to what you're saying. If he had said a joke on stage, I think this would be less of a thing. But the fact that it was like him talking as himself
on the podcast,
because I was saying to Lindsay in the beginning while I was watching that clip, it seemed like he was almost subject to the guy, and he was kind of just like being quiet and not like, you know, which I understood. A lot of times people will talk and you're on their format or their forum, and you're like, I wish I wasn't here. Or like, I don't really want to. I'm not going to laugh at what you just said, but I'm going to be polite. And then he started doing this Asian accent, and the scariest part is him doing it as a regular persona.
Yeah, right.
Not. But also, again, that goes with like you joking, like just be yourself and it'll come. This is a persona he's also taken on in life.
Yeah,
which I think fucked him.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is like, and I hate this as much as I do hate this. Like, I don't support hate speech and all of that, but like. If a comic has an unpopular opinion and they tell a joke about it on stage, I think the audience should be the judge. And I think, you know, I would never, unless it is like hateful, I would be like, yeah, fucking great. That's you. And that's the life you have to live inside of.
Right.
And, you know, I wouldn't stop somebody from doing that.
Yeah,
like that is freedom of speech.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you say that kind of stuff off stage, we get to judge your character.
Yeah.
Like we get to judge who you are. Also, it's like, who fucking cares? We don't need him as a cast member. Do you know how many people want to be a cast member on SNL?
Yeah, right.
I don't feel bad he lost his job. I don't feel bad Louis C.K. like is like people don't like it. I could give a shit.
Yeah.
There's 100 people more talented, and this whole thing is a game of luck.
Yeah.
Like none of it is, you know, very little of it has anything to do with your talent or how hard you work.
Right.
You know, we would love to think that. So it's like, ooh, sorry, you fucked up an opportunity that you got by accident.
Right.
Essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the thing, though, that's happening in this state we're in is that people are digging into like
That's the problem.
your old shit to find out, oh, this guy, well, I had this experience with this guy and you're about to catapult him to this.
Yeah.
Well, let me show you why he shouldn't be, or how he's racist, or how he pulled his dick out and came into a plant, or whatever the details are.
Yeah.
But like, I just feel like that scares me too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because Twitter is a written form of stand-up for stand-up comics.
Right.
Let me just be clear. And I think that what you're saying is right. A lot of it is luck, but a lot of it also has become strategy. And a lot of it has become this kind of networking. Like, it used to be a comic who wasn't funny, who knew how to network, would get shows once or twice, but then the jig was up. They weren't funny, and they couldn't keep to it. But now on this social media world we're in, you can do jump cuts and do a 2-minute thing that make you seem likable, and then you have 14-year-old fans that amounts to 1.2 mil.
Yeah.
And like, there's this smoke and mirrors of talent that is just like ruining actual authentic.
Yeah, actual
talent.
stand-up. Yeah. Kind of going back to your point about the stage thing. I know that there was. I mean, because when people say like, "Oh, PC culture is like killing comedy," it's like, I don't know, man. Like, I've had to apologize to a lot of black headliners that I've booked for the amount of straight white dudes saying the N-word on my open mic. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, it's
tone deaf.
But at the same time too, it's like, I don't know. That's like that's a performance space. This is, whether we like it or not, this is art, and you're right. It's a totally democratic process. You know, I mean, if the audience doesn't like it and they don't like it time after time, you're telling that stupid joke, you're eventually going to stop telling that joke. Yeah.
Right.
And if other comics don't like it and they judge your character as they should, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have the right to do that and say, dude, fuck off.
Yeah, right.
Like, you're a piece of shit. And if you here's, you know, nobody has to explain to them why. Like, no black comic or person is like has to come up to them and like explain why they're, you know, what they're saying is fucked up.
Yeah.
They just have to fucking, you know, that's who they are. They just let that out.
Right.
And then you deserve to do that.
Yeah.
Like, you deserve
Absolutely.
the right to show. If anything, I think it's helpful. Like, if you want to reveal yourself as like a disgusting person on stage, at least it opens it up for opportunity to go, hey, dude, like that is, I'm going to say, hey, dude, because mostly dudes.
Yeah.
I'm going to be like, hey, dude, like that is, not a good idea. Here's why. You know?
Well, you can tell the difference between someone who's who can actually be a comedian and someone who's actually going up and it's an ill-advised thing.
Just wanting to be an edgelord or whatever.
Yeah, and then some of you are like, there is like some people you look at and you go, I'm just going to tell them why that might not work because I do think they could be better.
Yeah.
And then there's some people you're just like, get him the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
This guy, you know, brought all his friends to a bringer show and just did material he would in his cubicle and he's crushing because they all have heard it before and now it's in an amplified state. Yeah. This guy will hopefully go nowhere. But that was my point to the social media part of it is that you can mask it all now.
Yeah.
And then because you have 45,000 followers, people will still book you.
Right.
And I think that's like the problem.
That is a weird power. Yeah.
Well, they're not going up at open mics either and being vulnerable.
No.
They're like going on they're like producing their videos.
Right.
And they're getting booked at comedy clubs because they have a draw.
Yeah.
Whether they've hustled or not.
Right. Whether they're funny
and
or
they're
not.
god awful. And you're like, what is this? I've written on shows where the hosts have become, they were YouTube stars and they gave them their own TV show.
Jeez.
And it's, I don't know if you noticed, this trend is starting to end because they fail every time. Because it's not that a YouTube star can't have talent. That's not the thing. It's like you have to differentiate a YouTube star with the talent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But a lot of like networks and stuff will be like, oh, he has 5 million followers. And those people are kids.
Those people are kids,
and they're not watching.
And it's not
Fox.
live performance, you know.
Right.
Like, I mean, live performance is hard. Like, I was in a position where I had to book I was in the process of booking a podcast festival, and it's really like when I was getting down to it, it's like, oh, I only want to book comedy podcasts because comedians know how to perform in a live setting. You know what I mean? And there's just that's just a thing we know how to do because it's what we do, and because I've seen non-comedian run live podcasts, and I mean, obviously there's a ton of exceptions to this rule,
of course, but I know a few of them.
But generally they don't tend to have great live shows unless it's like really, really like structured and meticulous in how they do it. But
and unless they're in a theater that someone has booked for them, and all of the kids and the people in that age, you know, their actual fans come to the shows. Right. You know what I mean? And I think there's just such a blurred line right now. I met Robin Thicke the other day.
I was
just want to throw that out.
I was going to ask you before we move on to the dad stuff about baking.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, you love to bake.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for asking me about baking.
I just want to say she made my birthday cake.
Oh, yeah?
And it was a Dirty Dancing theme. It was a couple weeks ago. And she made a watermelon birthday cake. Oh. And it was amazing and beautiful.
Just in the aesthetic or in the flavor?
I'll show you.
She'll show you. But it was not in flavor.
Okay.
It looked like the inside of was that fair? It looked like a watermelon's top had been lopped off, and you could see inside it.
Oh, I love
it. It was
that.
Gorgeous, and it looked
Thank
just
you.
like a stump of watermelon.
Yeah.
It was a fruity cake, but it wasn't. I don't know who wants to eat a watermelon flavored cake.
I don't know who that's for. Yeah.
I was grateful that she was like berry and fresh. I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Okay with berry.
It was delicious.
How'd you get into where did the baking come from?
Yeah, I mean, I got into baking. I mean, I've always kind of like loved.
So cool.
That's so great.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I've always like been super into baking. I mean, I like talk about it on stage. Like, I love desserts. I love sweets. I have a problem. It's fine. You know, like I'm sober, so it's like,
sure.
Yes, it makes sense
drug.
to a certain degree. But I love baking because I love I mean, it's stupid. I love making people happy with it. Like, I think it's so fun to me to just like be able to show up with something delicious.
Yeah.
And like, it just makes people happy.
Yeah, and it's truly like a selfless effort. You know what I mean? Or maybe that's not the right term, but either way, there by nature has to be work put into that gift.
Yeah, and it's like it is like somewhat personal. You know, you personalize it to yourself, and you're like, but you think about it from this perspective of like, what would people like? What brings them joy? And ultimately, it's like, what brings you joy? And there's something really genuine and fulfilling about the idea of like approaching a project, which we can't always do in this industry, and be like, here's something I'm going to be able to accomplish in either an hour or a couple days, if it's a cake or something like that, that I can think of in terms of what do I love that I could possibly also make other people happy with.
Yeah.
And then it's just fucking fun.
Yeah.
Like, it's fun, and it's meditative. I started doing it like more and more and more as like a stress reliever.
Yeah, I was gonna say it seems like it would be, and it almost seems too like. I mean, just hearing you talk about it sounds like there's almost a weird parallel between baking and comedy, where you have like this structure, but there's a lot of room to like riff, within that. Yeah,
totally. And it's just, it's cool, and it's something that just like brings, every time I do it, I'm always like, this is just joyous, and there's no stakes, and I don't have to like worry about like somebody evaluating it and tell me it's good or not, because it's like, also, even if you fuck up, it's sugar. Right. You know what I mean? You gotta fuck up hard for it to not be good. I'll eat a mushy cake. I'll eat a mushy cake in a minute. I don't give a fuck. This isn't British Bake Off. Like,
I love that.
You know?
But yeah, I just remember even when we first met, like the first birthday we ever like knew each other, she brought me a pie.
Oh, wow.
For my birthday. She's like, hi, and just gave me a pie. And I was like, oh.
That's so nice.
And it wasn't like she was exploiting this, like, 'cause she hadn't really been doing bake, like you loved doing it, but it was like, so this is something that's obviously ingrained in her.
Yeah.
It's just like a thing that she is fully connected
is that something like you grew up doing, or is it just something you got into later in life?
My dad cooked a lot. Like, he cooked a ton, but we only ate like organic sweet. Like, my mom was very like granola, and so I think there's like a rebellion piece of it.
Sure.
And and also something to like make me different. Like, I'm not my dad, and so I think there's like definitely like a piece of that, but it's also something that it's accomplishing, you know what I mean? And I have memories around food.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
That's nice. I like that. Well, you guys, funny enough, you have a podcast about dead dads.
We do.
Yeah. What's the title?
It's called Dead Dads Club.
Oh, okay. I was close. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. Well, what was the genesis of that podcast idea?
I think we were at a Starbucks across the street from my house, weren't we? And I was like, we should do a podcast called Dead Dads Club. And Lindsay's like, absolutely. And that's kind of what happened.
Yeah.
What's the premise for people that have never listened to it before?
I think, and stop me if I'm wrong, I think that Lindsay and I both were having it's deeper than that conversation, but we both were having a kind of a conversation about like how it's so hard to do a dead dad joke on stage.
Yeah.
Like, people clam up or they get weird, and we both have dead fathers and we both have dead dad jokes.
Yeah.
But so I think this was a way we wanted to interview comedians to start, and people in entertainment to talk about their dead dads in more of a casual way.
Yeah.
Right? To make it more digestible.
Yeah.
For people to be like, it's okay to hear about it.
Right.
We know you're afraid of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're all afraid of a parent dying.
Yeah.
But I definitely think, and tell me if you disagree, I think when your parent dies, no matter what age you are, it definitely changes your perception and the way you talk about death.
Yeah, it changes it. And there's also like, I mean, I want to talk about everything. I'm like, I constantly want to talk about everything with everyone. And like, literally nobody wanted to hear about how weird it was that like my dad's dead body had to sit in his bedroom for like hours until someone picked it up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that at this point is like funny and weird. And nobody was on board to be, unless they had a dead parent or experienced like these nuances that nobody talks about.
Yeah.
Like, nobody was on board to like be like, isn't that fucking crazy.
Yeah.
They don't let you let it be casual. And it always has to be this thing of like somber and like, and you're just like, no.
Yeah.
Like Lindsay's dad died when she was in her 20s and mine died when I was a kid.
Oh.
So we always talked about like how that is different and what would we prefer? Because my dad died suddenly, hers did not.
Yeah.
So it's like it's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
And I think we should be able to, the things you make fun of and the things that shape you from it. Like she tells a thing about, she found a dildo, like her dad told her to go hide a dildo.
Yeah.
Wow.
My dad was like losing it, and he was like, "You're the only one."
And that's so goddamn funny.
Yeah.
And you can't hear it like if you don't understand it.
Yeah,
And we just wanted people to start to understand that like this is like a real person situation anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
No,
it doesn't have to
100%.
be like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And it's thank you for the sorry, but like, can I tell you about this dildo?
That's so
Right.
funny.
And it's like when you're a kid, it's such a different experience too.
Sure, I
like
can only
it's,
imagine,
and like hearing Renee talk about it has like been so, helpful for how like it has affected her life overall. And like the healing process is so different, because your mind is different and you evolve, and just like she does a really good job of talking about that. And I think it's a good, parallel. And I also think it's a good place for people to come in at any state to talk about that.
I agree. And I think our one rule has always been, I think it's unspoken but kind of spoken, is that your parents should be dead for a year before you come on the show.
Oh, interesting.
Because it's a very raw thing.
Yeah, you don't know how you feel. I mean, I was like a full, I'm the kind of person who's like, trauma, nah, it's time to be done. Goodbye.
Yeah. Let's
So
just shove that thing down.
yeah. So I was and I had I knew I like, I would cry in bathrooms and stuff, but I would just like, it really needed to end when I walked out. So I needed to be I texted my boyfriend when he died, and my boy, he always brings that up. He's like, that is the most psychotic. Like I love my boyfriend. I'm still with him. Like this wasn't like a loveless. I was just like, yeah, I'm going to text you. That makes sense to me.
Right.
And he called me and I was like irritated.
Oh, wow.
It's interesting. Though that's why what I was joking about before was really why I think I use humor, because my family, there was never like a, Renee, let's talk about your dad died. Like no one sat me down and was like, this is what's happening. It was more like, she doesn't understand.
Right.
And I was 10 and it was like, she doesn't understand. And so I became like, so we're not feeling this. So no one can feel this. So I'm going to roast everybody. I'll just start roasting me and everybody and make my mom laugh so she doesn't cry in front of me. Like nothing scares me more than seeing my mom cry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because then she's about to cry and you're like, oh, no. If she loses it, then I have to lose it because she's like the strongest person I've ever met.
Right.
You know what I mean? And she'll almost cry saying, I love you. She's so bad with...
She's just right there.
She's just
like
so bad.
Like a thin membrane,
with it.
just kind of like they could break at any time.
Yeah. But you're right. Like but I will say... And, Lindsay and I haven't done our podcast for over a year now because we've both been busy and it just hasn't been working out with bookings.
Sure.
But we've been pitching it out for a while. So it's
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's in action.
It is.
Awesome.
It's still on iTunes for listening. But my point is if you listen to it from the first episode up until the most recent one we've done, I personally think Lindsay has digested and changed the way she thinks of her father throughout. It's like a really cool thing to listen to.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, one opinion she used to maybe have or like an energy around it has become more like aware.
Yes. And I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would totally agree with that because I came in hot and angry.
Oh, yeah.
I was very angry and I was like,
Which was great.
Yeah. And I was just, and it was, and Renee had like, come from like a very much more, not like digested and like something that I looked at and like definitely was able to learn from with this place of just like love and forgiveness in a lot of ways, but also awareness and, and for me, I was like, oh, fuck you. Here's the bad stuff. You're fucking bad man.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and was that anger was directed at your father and like some leftover
Yeah, unfinished business for sure.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I don't regret anything in the way that like things went down and I showed up for him and I,
Sure.
but I mean, I joke about it. I mean, I went to like mediums and like if I'm ever around a medium, it is impossible for me to not go. Is my dad sorry?
What was it? So like, I mean, what was your relationship like with your dad then? I mean, growing up.
My dad and I were very similar. He was an alcoholic. I was an alcoholic. We really couldn't connect. He admitted later in life that he made a conscious decision to like really back off from me when I started to remind him of his dad, who was an alcoholic.
Oh, right.
And it like, he admitted like in his alcohol, he was just like, yeah, I just couldn't do it. And I was like, do you know that I've been thinking, I imagined this for years, that like my dad was just like not participating.
Yeah.
So, and he spent a lot of time making me the problem because of that. So like, and I legitimately was a problem. Like, if I'm being honest.
But that's the moment as a parent, you're supposed to lean in, not pull away.
Exactly.
And that's tough.
And because you have a daughter.
Yeah. I mean, and so, I could definitely see some, I mean, there's probably a lot of resentment on your part and probably a lot of guilt on his part, Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing that, I worked through a lot of the resentment. It was difficult because he's just like, I've had the experience of being able to get sober and change and see that happen. Right. And like, he just wasn't the kind of person that was going to work for. And I think I just kept waiting and secretly hoping that he was going to be a different person. Yeah. And that's what it came down to, is just like not accepting who he was and being able to like love that, but the resentment around like him not being able to be that. Like even when I was grieving, I was like, I mean, dying was the nicest thing he could have done at that time. And I say that and I mean that fully. And it's like, he was fucking shit up so badly that it was like, yeah, maybe this is supposed to happen. I don't think he would have been able to get it together. Yeah. So I think this was the nicest way for everyone to kind of tie things up in a bow. Yeah. And for him to kind of bow out. Yeah, right. As morbid as it sounds. Yeah. I mean, it makes perfect sense. And I could also see where some people who maybe, like, I mean, if you're coming from a place where you've never dealt with a family member who has addiction, you know what I mean? Like, that's, because, like, my younger brother, he committed suicide. And he... I'm sorry. Well, I'm sorry. Thank you. But at the same time, too... I'm not sorry. I take it all back. Your uncomfortableness like, made me not sorry. No, I just want you to feel like I'm fishing for sympathy. No, but
you're clearly fishing for sympathy. Now tell us how it happened.
But I mean, like he had a heroin addiction, and he was kind of on this like downward spiral, and it was one of those things where I had personally put so much effort into trying to help him, and he was not willing to help himself, and so I mean, it sucked that it ended that way, but it's like we were all so miserable, my parents were miserable. I was having a hard time because I'm trying to like drag this dead weight that doesn't want to be drugged, and so it's like it really, really sucked to lose my very best friend, but at the same time too, it was a weird like relief, it's like at least we aren't worrying about him anymore. Right. Yeah. And so I mean I get that. Yeah. And if you've never dealt with that, then I can see where people
people are weird. Back. Like my dad was an alcoholic. He died of a heart attack at age 38.
Oh my gosh.
And he had a small heart attack before that, and he was told, you got to quit drinking and smoking. Yeah. And he did not quit drinking and smoking, and he's dead. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, not to be harsh, but it's like the same thing. It's like this addiction thing, this like, I ask my mom all the time, do you think you would still be with Dad if he were alive? And she's like, I don't know. Yeah. Because he was a jovial, good guy, but he was very sad. And he drank so much. And now as an adult, you can look back at someone and go, oh, that person was also a human being. And you can see them like an adult. Right. Because I only know him like a 10-year-old. Sure. Because as soon as he's gone, that's how you remember him. Like, and it's interesting because my brothers and sisters, we all have a different point of view of him. My brother was on the podcast.
Yeah, that was so interesting. Yeah, it was so cool.
It was cool. It was actually cool for me because we never sat down and just really for real hashed out the death of our dad. Yeah. Like the happening of it. And I think I do remember, do we all almost cry? on that episode, just because it was like very like there are things I remember. I just assumed I was the only one who remembered them. I was like, there's an Indian chief at the wake, right? And he goes, yes. And I was like, thank God. And we like high five.
And I had been hearing that story, and so it was like so fucking cool. I mean, watching them do this whole thing, because siblings have different experiences with their parents when they're alive and when they're dead.
Yeah. It was cool, but it was like those things where you go, oh shit, yes. But to what you guys are saying, I think there is a part of me that has said before that I think had he not passed away, our family wouldn't be the way it is.
Sure.
Our tight-knit situation wouldn't be the way it is, and I would not have the compassion I might. You know what I mean? I probably would be. I date alcoholics, so it's not changed that.
Well, I mean, you mentioned it. You said that he was just had profound sadness about it. Do you know where that came from, or like what he was carrying?
Well, I think I don't know, no, but at the funeral I found out, my mom already knew that he had 2 other kids before my mom. Oh. And I think he essentially abandoned them in a lot of ways. And as I became an adult, the girl, Anne Marie.
Oh.
It's okay. She reached out on Facebook to my brother, my oldest brother, who was aware of her. I didn't know everyone knew about her.
Yeah. Are you the youngest?
No, I'm the middle. But my there's 4 of us. Okay. So my brother George knew. I think my brother John Paul kind of knew, but definitely me and my sister did not know. And this girl came to the funeral and was like very bitchy about it, which in hindsight, I get it. You know what I mean?
She's probably feeling a lot of things. Yeah.
And I think like, to what you were saying, Lindsay, about your father being like, I saw myself in you and pulled away. Like you seemed like someone I needed to kind of like pull away from as a father.
Yeah.
I think on steroids, my dad did that because of the mother of these 2 kids, that he probably sat with that guilt for a really long time because he was very involved in my family. You know what I mean? Like very involved, and to me anyway. But I don't know what anybody else's opinion is. But so I think he probably was super sad about that, whether it was conscious or subconscious. But he would come home at night. I distinctly remember he would come home at night late, forgetting to pick my mom up from the train. Obviously disappointing the marriage. Super drunk. Would wake up my brothers, bring them downstairs. I remember coming out of my room and my dad would be crying, telling them, "You're going to miss me when I'm gone." And like saying all these things and like really sadness and like putting that on my brothers. Almost like he wanted to apologize in advance that he's going to be gone. And so I remember watching that, like seeing it, and it was like dark, it's like dark in a room. He's just talking to them, and I would start crying because I didn't understand what that meant.
Yeah, why your dad was leaving.
And so I don't know, like we kind of toy with the idea he was maybe suicidal, or he was like okay with not being alive.
Sure.
It's an interesting thing.
That is wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always interested in that perspective on growing up. I mean, when you lose your dad. I mean, what's it look like after that? What's your family like, and how do the dynamics change?
My mom is the oldest of 5, and she's 100% Sicilian. Every single uncle and aunt, when I was born, they were all kind of young, so they feel like older brothers and sisters.
Oh, sure.
But they moved back from wherever they were. My dad's drinking buddy Marty moved 2 blocks away in an apartment building to help my mom. Everyone raised us.
Wow.
So we have a very close family, and my dad's side of the family, my mom still made sure we did every Thanksgiving and Christmas with. Like,
I love that.
It's a family I didn't know everyone didn't have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, oh, this makes perfect sense. Like,
sure.
My grandparents came over once a week, cleaned the house top to bottom. Then we'd all have dinner and watch Friends. Like, that was what was going on. You know what I mean? Our family was, and my brothers and sisters, like, I joke a little bit, but I kind of like to let the new people are dating or they marry or whatever, like, know that, like, wow, sisters and brothers, a lot of people, like, I don't know if you've heard of this, like, brothers and sisters not talking. Or like them having a falling out.
Right.
And I was like, that'll never happen here. Like I said to my brother has a new girlfriend and she's the youngest of, I want to say 7, but she had made a comment that she like doesn't like somebody in her family. She won't talk to him for like a year or 2. And I felt the need in a very nice way to make sure she understood that won't happen here.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
right.
oh, cool. I cannot relate to that because if my brother tries to ignore me, I'll come to your house.
Yeah.
Like,
and we're going to work this shit out.
We will because our parent died when we were kids and what we have is this.
Yeah.
Nobody will get in the way of that because I'll step right in and be like, open up your eyes because this is not okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of family I grew up having. It's like they see each other so much. Like my sister's new husband was like, I didn't know what you meant. Like, I didn't know. And then they moved back to Chicago because my sister moved to LA with me. They had a baby, moved back to Chicago. And he sees my family several times a week. Like, if it's a birthday, we're celebrating. It's my aunt's birthday, we're all celebrating. Like, it's a very tight...
Did your mom ever remarry?
No.
No?
And barely dated.
Oh, really? She's just like...
so cute.
Yeah, she's good. She's
got
happy.
Pregnant when she was 19, 20. I would say cusp there. So I'm a firm believer that he took her virginity and a firm believer that she never thinks anyone's going to be that. And I think that's natural. That's what happens. She never had like another real thing.
I mean, good for her too, though. I mean, and feeling like fulfilled, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, does she feel like she like... I don't know. Do you feel like she needs a husband? Or
no, I would like for her to have like a companion. I think she wanted one for a while. She did date this guy we would call Mr. Fabulous. He was very annoying.
Oh no!
Everyone hated him. No. But that's because he did it to himself. It wasn't for any other reason. But no, she just didn't. She just is like, no, I'm fine. I'm like, okay, honey. Oh, today's her birthday. Say the 5th. Yeah, I gotta call her after this.
That's perfect.
That's perfect. I kept saying yesterday I'm gonna forget that it's her birthday. And she's like, write it down.
Yeah, I was like, set an alarm.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I have to call her.
Yeah, I mean, you do make an interesting point. I mean, a good point too. Where I mean, like as somebody who's dating right now, when I see somebody who's like, like kids are number one. They're my world. It's like, yes, okay, that goes without saying. Like if you're a parent,
sure.
But I see a lot of I see like a lot of like especially like young moms that like almost tie their identity to motherhood.
Yes.
And I mean the reality is like what we're supposed to do as parents is we're supposed to like get these kids to adulthood and then they like go out and then they become adults and then they're on their own.
Right.
Where the problem comes with that kind of parenting, like that real like helicopter, like my kids are my world parenting, is you can shirk a lot of your own self like love and suddenly your kids are 18 and they're leaving and you have nobody,
right?
And it's really like the reality is like your partner is the one that's supposed to be with you when you get old. It's not your kids' responsibility to like keep you entertained and engaged, and that's where I think you see like the real like nosy like moms that are like really like all up in their adult kids' business and stuff.
Yeah, and my mom's not like that at all. Like my mom, it was survive. It was like survival parenting, I think, for a lot of it. Like while she had a lot of help, we still like didn't have a car for a few years. There was a lot of financial struggle because they had just bought a house together. And she had 4 kids, all in grade school, like about to be in high school. Right. So it was, I don't think she ever was like helicoptering or like I'm a mother. Like to your point, I don't think she was like my kids are my world. I think it was like I have to keep these kids alive.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like I have to get them to school. Like every day was something different. And then she did date. She tried to date. She did a widows group.
Oh my God, my mom still hangs out with her widows group.
So does my mom. We call her the widow friends because they were all so much older than my mom. Because it wasn't common for young mothers. I mean, it still isn't. Like it's not like a lot of young mothers lose husbands as it's not as normal as like old age or whatever happens. Like whatever. So all her widow friends, I want to say have like 15 years on her, 10 to 15 years on her, but she's still good friends with them,
Still doing it.
Rosemary and Susan.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
How's your mom doing these days?
My mom is good. I mean, it's interesting. I don't think my mom was that helicopter mom either. Like my mom or my dad. they always had lives.
Yeah.
You know, I think that my mom was really comfortable in the way that she balanced motherhood with her life. And she always worked. She went back to work after both my sister and I, were old enough. And, she always established her own thing. And it's like, a part of me was like, why don't you want to hang out with my friends' moms? And she's like, 'cause I don't fucking care about them. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
my mom never did either.
Yeah. She was just like, I don't fucking want to.
Yeah,
I don't like them. They're stupid, and obviously she wouldn't say that. But now in retrospect, I'm like, oh, God, I can't even imagine going to Margarita fucking Mondays with these women.
The one thing we have in common is we have a kid that's the same age, like our kids that are the same age. Like, it's like,
God, horrific. I'm so glad she set those boundaries.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like she was her own person fully, and we would like go to her friend's house and hang out. Like that's where we had the holidays because our family wasn't big. So, she had all these friends, and I was so worried that like she had nobody to hang out with, and she like lives her life. You know what I mean?
Same. Yeah.
She like lives her life, and it's like she was as involved in motherhood as was natural to her, and I'm lucky because what that looked like was like a lot of compassion and a lot of love and a lot of like, instinctual showing up just like whenever and however she could. But she, and she's not dating now. And I think she just gets in her own way. I don't know if she wants it, but like I know she doesn't want online dating.
Right. Yeah,
and
my mom tried that. She was like, no, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I was like, Mom, you're being you're being judgy. And then I went on OkCupid and was like, I cannot even believe these are your choices.
It's the worst. Yeah. Oh, it's that was her choice. Like you went on her OkCupid, or
yeah. Okay, so I created an OkCupid account for her.
Thing.
Yeah,
geez.
and because I was like, I really was sure that she was being dramatic about it and not putting herself out there, because she's very like, she's a hover mom in her own life. So she's like very controlled and but yeah, I went on and it was like guys her age who were just like, I love two things, a nice beer at the end of the day and my red car. And you're just like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I do remember my mom did dating like eHarmony or something. It was still like early stages of apps weren't really a thing. And she met a guy who was so nice. And I remember we met him and he was so into my mom, and my mom was like, next. And we were like, no, Mom, we really like him. She's like, nee. And I think that's like also with your mom, whether there were trials and tribulations and whatever happens when someone dies, you romanticize the parts of them that made you love them. And I think there is always going to be for a woman. I know men move on fast, but I think that's because men widowers, what do we call men? Widows? Widower.
Yeah.
They seem to move on fast with like any woman that shows them compassion. And I think that's because men need women. If they were married once, they need to go back to that life or something. There's like something there. But my mom, and I think your mom sounds the same, is like, you will forever compare the love. And it's not going to come.
Because my dad was also her first everything. Right. Like her first love, her first boyfriend. They met when they were like 19. They were married for like 10 years before they had kids. Like, so that was like her life. So she doesn't have anything to compare dating to. She doesn't know that like when you date, you have to date like a million people that suck. Before you meet someone.
It's so funny. I have these friends. Because I grew up out here, it's like Fresno is that way, but like I went to like school and like church growing up, and there's a little town over here called Easton, and it's just literally like one stoplight, a middle school, a high school, and like 17 churches, and
I love it.
And so it's this very small town, rural, or whatever. But there's a lot of people in that. I mean, it's both like how things used to be and how things are now in like rural communities, but. There are a lot of people that don't know how to be single. I mean, it's actually it's a little refreshing to hear that about your moms, in that they were like also very comfortable in themselves to be alone.
Yes.
But I see it a lot with dudes where they don't know how to be alone.
Yeah.
I had a buddy that his wife died very suddenly, and he was dating a month later.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Yeah. And you gotta like process this, man. Like, this is serious. This is heavy. And And I see it like one of them will get divorced and then they've got a live-in girlfriend 2 months later. And it's like, what? Like, how do you, I don't know. Like, it's wild.
It's definitely a void fill, but it's also in a lot. And you see it with guys who just break up with someone. Like you just said, the divorce. I don't know how many guys I've dated for like a couple years, and we break up and they move in with someone 3 months later, and you're like, are you a psychopath?
Yeah.
And then 5 months later, look who's calling you going, I made a bad choice.
Right.
And you're like, oh, you've now digested.
Yeah.
Like those guys are crying in the shower. Do you know what I'm saying? Like during that.
100%. Because like feelings are hard, bro. Like
they are hard. That's why we're all
really
doing stand up.
It's just like, you know that you're a great man. You got it.
Right.
No, I know you're not
just
bragging.
saying there, but yeah. So I don't know. It's also very impressive that they're both like, no,
I'm impressed
fulfilled
with
enough.
it.
Yeah.
Because I think part of me thought like, oh my God, it's tragic that they don't have, that my mom never remarried. And then my mom at one point told me, she's like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're not thirsty? Because I am real dehydrated.
My mom has to remind me that she's fine, but then she also will admit that she's lonely sometimes.
Same.
And I'm like, I want you to have a companion as you get older. She lives in New Jersey. I'm like, you either move inside my one bedroom or you get a companion.
Right. But the thing that's cool is that she can admit that she's lonely.
Yeah.
And I think my mom has said too, like, of course I'd love someone to go to dinner and to movies with and stuff. And I would love it. And I think she does see some of her friends or some people like dating guys in her age bracket that she's like, I mean, I feel like, why wouldn't I be dating? And I see that. And we all agree. You know what I mean? Because my mom is adorable and she's tiny and she's fun and she's whatever, you know? But like being able, I think we all go through that. I think even with someone, you're lonely at times, right? And then to be able to just say it to your kid, I think is a pretty big deal.
I agree.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm starting to worry. I'm getting like too, like, I feel like I'm starting to like enjoy being single too much.
Yeah.
Like, cause I've like literally today, believe it or not, I don't know why I remember this date, but this was the day of my like last breakup. Like it's just like I've been single for 2 years now, which is really the longest I've been single. And like I've dated gals like kind of like off and on in that time period, but sometimes they'll stay over and I'm like, oh, you're still here. Like, it's like, I like you, but like, can you leave?
I gotta tell you,
great.
I went on a date, and I won't say his name because we know him. I went on what I thought was a date. This guy, we went to dinner, came back to my apartment. I live alone. Came back to my apartment. We were like, let's watch. It was about to come out. Let's watch the original It. Watch that. Made jokes. It was just okay. No vibe anymore. You know what I mean? We kissed a little, and I was like, I mean, you have to know this is not escalating to intercourse,
right?
Because I don't let it. But he stayed at my house. He slept over.
Oh my goodness.
He was just gonna sleep on the couch. I was like, what? Slept over, stayed till 6 o'clock the next day.
Oh yeah, I think I knew who this was.
In the evening?
In the evening.
In the evening?
Then we didn't kiss, we did nothing.
Yeah.
And then I was like, hey, I don't think this is the thing. He's like, yeah, then why did you stay at my house?
Yeah, for
24
hours.
6 in the more than 24 hours.
Oh my God.
Get out.
Yeah.
You're not that fun. We got into an argument. Like we had a full relationship in 24 hours.
God, that's so funny.
It ran dry. It had no spark. It was like we're eating in silence.
That's
you know
so
what I mean?
funny.
It was just like, why are you still here? And I think like being single, as you're talking about, like you kind of get used to.
Yeah.
Because I've been single for like 3 years now, and I date people, but I don't know if it's me or if it's them, but they never pull the trigger to call it anything else, and then it goes away. And then you're like, I'm like, I really just want to come home, eat pudding with my dog, and watch all the TV.
Yeah, right.
You know, and I'm not unhappy.
Sure.
But it's like when they come over and they stay that long.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Why are you still here? Also, take your shoes off.
I'm fortunate in that I have a nice excuse, which is like, I got my daughter tonight. Like, you gotta, you gotta
so
get out of
lucky.
here. Yeah.
Have you ever said that when you didn't have your daughter? to get out of it.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. No, totally. Like if I'm trying to get out of like a thing with somebody, I don't. Yeah, absolutely. It's the ultimate like trump card.
Love it.
I mean, and it works for more than just relationships too. I mean, like,
for sure.
Just literally any like, babysitter fell through. Her mom's busy. Like I can't.
Love it.
And so can't make it tonight. So yeah, it's great.
How old is she?
She's 8. She's gonna be 9 next month.
Oof.
So.
What's her name?
Abigail.
So cute.
What an age.
Yeah, she's great, man. She's starting to get like a little pouty about stuff. Like her mom put her in this like travel softball league. My poor listeners have heard me like whine about this travel softball league. This travel softball league is very intense, and it's starting to like catch up with her. Like she really liked the idea, but it's like. It starts like at the end of summer and it goes all the way to like Christmas, and then there's like a Christmas break, and then the spring ball starts, and then it's like. I'm like, and it's like, it seriously cuts into like our time specifically, like the half of the week that I have her. Like, I was at a softball game like last Sunday. I was at a softball tournament for 8 hours.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's like, yeah.
Does she love it?
She likes the social aspect of it, and she's actually a pretty good player.
Yeah.
But like it's like, we got practice on Monday nights and Wednesday nights, then we have a game on Friday, and then there's a tournament on Sunday, and it's like,
is there a less intense version?
Yes, there is. The reason she got into this league is because there's like a local league, like you're like the league that's whatever attached to whatever school you go to or whatever town you live in, and like that league wasn't very competitive, and like she was like the tallest kid on her team, and she was just like, I mean, she wasn't the oldest, but like all the little girls are just kind of there to like, it's like, like take pictures, like have their mom take pictures of them while they're like at bat. Meanwhile, they're just not swinging and the ball's flying by them, and my daughter's just like this fucking monster, and she was really like she was really hoping to like she's dominating these dumb girls, and she was really like itching to like have more competition, so her mom got her into this league, and she likes that she's playing up, you know what I mean, she's playing up in as far as her abilities are concerned, but it's just so grueling. It's just
it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's like learning the violin,
right?
It's like okay, you have to play the piano.
I have no reference point for that.
I mean, I never learned the violin. I never had to do anything travel. I was a cheerleader, and that was it.
Well, let's bring this thing in for a landing. The way I like to end these shows is like I call them like dad anecdotes or dadecdotes. It's just like if you have like a favorite story you like to tell about your dad, that's usually what I'm looking for. If you don't have a great one about your dad, I mean, your moms are obviously I'm open to momecdotes too. Just whatever is your favorite parenting anecdote from when you were a kid.
You have to go first.
I have to go first?
Yeah,
I'm going to tell the dad dildo story.
Yes, oh my God, it's so good. I'm not going to follow this.
No, I mean, my dad, and I'll keep it as short as possible. Sure. So my dad had bladder cancer, and it was terminal. They gave him a year. He died like almost a year to it. So it's like a couple months before he died, I came home from Chicago, and I kind of just like stayed and took care of him and hung out. And at this point, he needed help kind of doing everything. His faculties were starting to go. He couldn't like use the phone, but he was like, he could talk-ish. Yeah. He could talk. But, my mom had not left me alone with him yet. And so she was like, I was like, Mom, go to the store. It's fine. It's me and Dad. Nobody's going to die. And so she left, and I was like, see it almost immediately. My dad gets up out of bed, which is like, he should not be doing. And he gets up out of bed. He shuts the door to the bedroom where he is and locks it. And I was like, Dad, what is happening? You have to open the door. And I'm like, why the fuck is he doing this? And I was like, Dad, seriously, are you okay? Are you okay? He goes, I'm okay. And then he opens the door and he goes back to bed and he's like out of breath, right? So like that's how much. And because I heard him like rustling around. Yeah. And he's like, okay. He's like, I have something. I wanted to tell I figured you would be the best, and he's like, don't freak out. I have a dildo. And I was like, oh, great. And he was like, I haven't used it in a while. Like, I think he saw my face and was trying to be like, don't worry about it. And I was like, not helping. he's like, I haven't used it in a while. But he's like, I want you to hide it from your mom so she doesn't find it when I go. And I'm like, you're asking me as your dying wish to hide your dildo. That's what you got for me? You don't got like money, or you don't have like a special keepsake. Like you got a dildo for me to hide. And I was so over it. And also in that moment, it was just like such like a perfect thing. Like, you know, because of all the drama my dad and I had, I was like, you really wanted to go out with a bang, huh? You really wanted
I noticed you're not giving this to my sister.
Yeah, he was like, I figured you would understand. That's what he says. I figured you would understand. And I was like, look, I do. And we don't ever need to speak about this. And I was just like, Jesus Christ. So I was like, okay, yeah. I mean, what do you say? No?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. You know, I was like, yeah. And he's like, thank you so, like, he was so genuinely like so grateful. So it was kind of just like, okay.
It was probably a lot off his shoulders. You probably have been thinking about it a lot. And I've never met your sister, but from what I know, she probably doesn't have dildo energy.
No, she doesn't have dildo energy.
And also, I mean, weirdly enough, it kind of makes your dad seem a little cooler. Like he had a fun little kink, like, you know?
Sure. It's like something I never wanted to know about because I already knew too much. And like he had like weird relationships with other women, so I was also just like not in the mood for your dildo nonsense.
That's real.
But and my sister did have a very different relationship with him, so it was just like you just wanted to really, you know. So I was like, yeah, okay, I will. And I was like, please don't get up out of bed again by yourself. And, you know, and he was like, okay, thank you. And like, and then he, I left the room. And then as soon as my mom came home, I walked downstairs and I was like, Dad has a dildo, wants you to hide it. He wanted me to hide it. I'm not doing it. You're going to have to do it.
Oh, wow, you added him immediately?
Yeah, I was like, he doesn't want you to know about it. She goes, oh, I've known about it.
So good. Men are so dumb.
Yeah, and I was just like, great, so you deal with it. And she was like laughing, and she's like, I'm so sorry. But she's like trying not to laugh too. And she's like, are you okay? And I was like, I mean, what am I going to not be okay? I mean, he's dying. So that's my story.
That's so great.
What about you, Renee?
I have two little tiny ones I think kind of depict what kind of dad my dad was. Other than like thinking, like if I ever asked my dad, like, will you come watch us dance routine? He'd be like, done, let's go. Like he was very nurturing in that way. And but when I was, I want to say 4th grade, I had a real mouth on me. And these kids who were cooler, who were a year older than me, started picking on this kid. And my brother and I stepped in to help. And the bully called us the N-word.
Oh.
And I knew that was bad. Yeah. And I knew he should not have said that. So I kicked him in the balls. And then my brother and his friends handled the rest. We got in trouble. Okay, suspended. 4th grade. Got in trouble. We went right to my dad first because my mom was the authoritative figure. Went right to my dad. He was like, Jesus Christ, like what? I'm like, well, this is what happened. I was like, but he used the N-word. And my dad stops, looks at me, and goes, you kick his ass? I'm like, 100%. And that was like, and one other time I was a bad kid now that I'm listening to these stories, but there was a girl down the street and she was very mean to me. So in chalk, I wrote bad things about her on her front sidewalk.
I've done that. I did as a teenager.
I was a child, and the mom came down and walked to our house, and my dad was the only one home with me, and she was like, your daughter just spelled that my daughter was a piece of shit, or whatever I said, like motherfucker, or whatever I did, whatever new word I had learned. And my dad's like, okay, all right. And she's like, in chalk, and he's like, so you can wash it off. And she was like, that is not the point. I'm going to the school and she's going to get in trouble. And he goes, what are they going to do? Check her spelling? This has nothing to do with school. And I was like, and that's my fucking
that's awesome. It's cool. It's cool when parents have your back like that. Cool. Well, you guys have been awesome. Renee and Lindsay, you've been awesome. If people want more of you guys in their lives, where can they find you online?
Oh, I'm at Nene Gauthier on all platforms.
Oh, cool.
Which is NENEGOOTER.
Sweet.
Love it.
I'll link your handle in the show notes.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. And Lindsay?
My Twitter is at Lindsay's face. And
so much better than mine.
No, and then my Instagram is at Lindsay is a cat. And my baking is Big Stuff W Lindsay.
Okay, cool.
With.
Oh, nice. Well, cool. Well, thank you guys so much. That was a blast.
Thank you so much for having
so
us.
fun.
Absolutely. And we're back. How great was that, you guys? Super fun. I wasn't sure I could do 2 guests at a time, and we did it, and it's awesome. I'm so happy with how that turned out, and I'll be back next week with a fun guest, Sean Reddy. I mentioned him in last week's episode. I did do it. I did do Sean's episode. I just had this other episode pop up in between, and it was so good I wanted to release it. Sean's episode's great too. Like I said last week, Sean's about to be a dad, so that was fun to kind of explore that topic and his feelings on about how he's about to be a parent. God, I suck. I'm sorry. And so that's fun. Hung out with Sean the last few days, and he and I. Sean's so funny. He's just like so down for whatever. Because like, a lot of times it's like the comedians are crashing at my house on a weekday, and for our Monday, Tuesday shows. And so like during the day, the shows are at nighttime. So during the day, a lot of times the comics will either hang out and watch TV at my place, or sometimes they'll go out and find something to do or whatever. I had a bunch of errands I had to run, and Sean's like, well, I could go with you. I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I gotta take a bunch of like recycling in. My dad needed some help clearing some stuff off the back of the property, and I had to take a bunch of stuff to the recycling center. And he's like, I'll go with you. So he's just in town helping me do like hard manual labor, and it was fun. It was a fun hang. So we'll be back next week with that. If you want to get a hold of me, saddadpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to help support the show, Sad Dad Patreon, I'll link that. And then Sad Dad Facebook page. And also, if you could rate and review on iTunes, I'd love you forever. So that's it, guys. We'll be back next week with Sean Reddy. Adios.